To me, Formula One racing or Formula One car, it's a very sophisticated machine that produces very high speeds. And when you are driving, on the personal side, let's say, you have a very great excitement with the feeling that you are going very fast, with the feeling that you are going close to the limits. That means not only maximum speed in a straight line, but high speed in a corner, or a late braking maneuver where you feel you are close to the limit of losing control and maybe having an accident. So every time you are close to those limits, the excitement increases and your heart goes quicker and your breath goes stronger, and it is all the time very important that you keep self-control, not only when you are driving on your own, so you are just trying to go a little quicker and quicker and quicker, to not exceed those limits, because sometime if you exceed one of those limits, it could mean a big accident, could mean a big injury or your life. On the other hand, when you are driving together somebody, you are fighting for a position, then is even more important to keep self-control, because sometimes you have some very close fights, sometimes you could get angry with the other driver, and then you could take action outside of your reason, just by your heart, and that could mean also a bad result, a bad injury or a bad accident. So there are two ways of doing it. One is by your heart, and one is a combination of your heart and your brain, and of course the one that gives you more enjoyment, more excitement, is by your heart, because that means just doing it by your feeling, just natural feeling. And the other one, when you use your reason, your thinking, then thousands of things go in your mind while you're driving. For instance, the responsibility you have at that moment with all team members, all sponsors, everybody involved, direct or indirect, behind you. So when you think about all that, it takes a lot of the pleasure away, because the responsibility being big, the tension builds up a lot, and the pleasure decrease. But this is a profession, and so you have to learn how to make a combination of your profession and your pleasure, because I also believe you can only perform as a racing driver if first of all you have pleasure. That's the most important thing, because that will give you motivation for being away from your home most of your time, being away from your family, from your friends, from your country most of your time, being in hotels, restaurants, airplanes, airports for most of the year. And when you do it, when you travel once a year, few days for pleasure, is enjoyable. But when you travel consistent every week, sometimes twice, 3 times a week, different countries, different places, it becomes very heavy. It becomes tiring. So the life of a racing driver has the glorious side, the excitement, the financial side, but has another hard side, which is your life, risk of your life, risk of your health, the penalty of traveling a lot, being away from the people you love to be together, away from your country. And so the only proper motivation for you to keep hard work, concentration, and good performance, I think, is enjoyment of driving. So you have to find a compromise between the profession and the heart driving to make a balance for your profession, for your performance, for your life. If I enjoy? Not always. Not always. As I was describing, there are moments that it's very difficult to keep your mind cool, keep your feeling clear and positive, because it's a big fight all the time. But generally, of course, I enjoy. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I think is when I look back my career, when I used to do, for instance, go-karting, just for fun, as my hobby, I was very hard driving and little head driving. And I had success. I had good success. But I learned during the years that I was doing, in many occasions where I had some mechanical failures or accidents, that was due because I was trying too hard, driving too hard with my heart. So maybe it was very exciting, spectacular, but in the final result, consistent was not the best. And so of course I try to learn from every mistake I make, from every wrong decision I make, to not allow it to happen again. And that is what I call experience, that I have had a great opportunity to start from very young and doing it every weekend, every month, every year, during several years. I had a good opportunity of learning it on the practical side. Since I come to Formula One, as a newcomer, it was difficult to keep control, self-control, to not exceed those limitations, because deep inside, I believe I am very strong in a way of driving. I mean, I want always to go faster. That's my nature. That's what I call nature. Even with experience and learning everything, you have a nature. And my nature is always a big fight, trying harder, trying to go faster, trying to be winner, and quicker. So I know that this is my natural characteristic. And knowing that, I try with the reason to control that and to improve that side, in order that in a long term I know that I'll get a better achievements if I control it. So I know I have a big natural feeling for driving, but today I believe, I also know that this is not enough. If you have that natural feeling, you need a very strong control, very, very clear mind on top of it, so you can develop. And since I come to Formula One, to start, I was very anxious to do well as quick as possible, to win as soon as possible. And it was very hard to control myself. Very, very hard to control, but just try. You still make mistakes. Sometimes you still exceed. But on the other hand, even if you try to be perfect, nobody's perfect. And you can only try hard to learn from your own mistakes and to learn by looking other people doing it as well. And that's what I call concentration. And I think I try very hard, very hard on the concentration side to understand as best as possible all the situations that present to me in different occasions, different circuits, different cars, different conditions, everything. It's so important for me to be able to read out the situation as it presents to me, in order that I have a quick reaction, but a correct reaction for it. And in '87, for instance, I knew I didn't have a car to start a race and determine the pace of the race and then to win. I realized that from the beginning. And as I realized that, I had to control very much myself, for instance, in many occasions at the beginning of some races, to not push very hard, because I would lose performance from the car, from the whole race. So I had to wait, leave the other cars, go a bit ahead, and wait for the right moment of technical conditions of my car to push harder and try to come back and fight. And this is very hard. When you have the machine in your hand and you have the possibility of increasing your power on your dashboard, or you have the possibility of pushing harder the throttle or braking later, it's difficult to control. It's difficult to have all that and leave it for later. You understand? Because it's there. And when somebody is pushing you from behind and you are under pressure, the normal reaction is to try immediately to go away. Or when somebody is ahead of you and is going away, the immediate reaction is to try to follow it. But many times if you do it, you will damage your equipment during the whole race distance. So you have to learn how to control and how to keep the equipment in the best condition as possible for the whole race. Sometimes means saving it a lot at one stage because it would be very expensive. And then later, when the conditions are the best, taking out everything you have from the car to make a good performance. So it is difficult to keep self-control and self-level. It is very difficult.